Now, about a month ago, I unboxed and got my first look at the HP Spectre x360 16T, the brand new 2-in-1 convertible from HP that moved from the 15.6-inch display to the bigger 16-inch display. That, of course, means it's a 16:10 aspect ratio. Now, this has got a Core i7 in it. It also has the RTX 3050. The one I reviewed last month had integrated XE graphics. We're going to look at it more in depth today in this full review. Hey everybody, it's Andrew, and this is my review of the HP Spectre x360 16T with the OLED display and the RTX 3050 graphics. Coming up.
And while we take a look at the specs, I want to let everybody know, in the interest of transparency and full disclosure, I'm not being paid by HP, I'm not being sponsored by HP. All the opinions you're about to hear are my own. HP is not getting copy approval. That means you're seeing this video for the first time, just like you. Now, this review unit is on loan from HP, and once this review is done, I'll be sending it back. Now, pricing starts at $1499.99. You can head on over to HP.com where you can find it on sale, or you can head on over to Best Buy. Now, the unit that I'm reviewing here today is a SKU that you would find at Best Buy, even though it was provided by HP, and that comes in at $2,029.99. Again, for those interested, check out the links below. Now, about a month ago, I reviewed the base model that had integrated Iris Xe graphics and had a 3K plus IPS display. For those that didn't see it, I'll leave a link in the description below. I highly encourage you to check it out. And with the specs and pricing out of the way, let's find out what you get inside the box. Let's open it up. Now, right off the bat, you'll notice they give you a full leather carrying sleeve. I think that's a really nice touch and adds a lot of value to this package. And I like the fact that it has a place to store the pen. Lifting the lid, you're greeted by the unit itself. We'll get to that in just a little bit. But before we do that, let's find out what else you get inside the box. You get some warranty information along with some other documentation. And unlike the base model, which comes with a 90-watt power adapter, you get a 135-watt power adapter. And like the other one, it uses a barrel pin connector. And of course, you also get the extension cord. And I love the fact that the pen is included at no additional cost. Now, this pen uses the Microsoft Pen Protocol 2.0, and we'll get more into it a little later in this video. Now, it comes in two different colors. Now, the base model I reviewed about a month ago was with the Nocturne Blue with the Celestial Blue accents, which was absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely love that color. The one we're reviewing here today with the OLED display and the RTX 3050 graphics comes in the Nightfall Black. We've seen that color before. It also has the pale brass accents. And at 4.45 pounds or 2.018 kilograms, definitely not the lightest 16-inch out there, has a little bit of heft, but definitely portable enough to take with you on the road. Okay, let's check out the port selection. On the left side in the gem cut corner is your 3.5mm headphone microphone combo jack. Next to that is an HDMI 2.0B port, and next to that is a drop jaw USB-A port. And moving over to the right side, you get a micro SD card reader. Next to that is one of your two Thunderbolt 4 USB-C 4 ports. They are full service. They do data charge and display out. Next to that is your power port. And next to that in the gem cut corner is your second USB-C Thunderbolt 4 port. And to be clear, I was able to charge on both ports. They do support charging, and I was able to use the Dell XPS 179710's 130-watt USB-C power adapter. Now, I already opened up this laptop in the last video. For those that didn't see it, it's very easy. All you need to do is remove the 4 T5 Torx screws, use a pry tool or a guitar pick to pry off the bottom plate, and you're in. No need to remove any of the rubber strips. That's very good. Now, you can configure this with up to 32 gigabytes of DDR4 3200 RAM. Now, the thing is, it's soldered into the motherboard. That means you, as the user, cannot upgrade it yourself. My review unit has come with 16 gigabytes of RAM, and that is more than enough for most people for everyday use. Now, the good news is the SSD is upgradable by the user, and the unit that I purchased last month had 512 gigabytes of SSD storage with 32 gigabytes of Intel Optane memory. And as you can see from these reads and writes, pretty good, and they seem to be Gen 3 type speeds, not the faster Gen 4 we've been seeing as of late. And the review unit that HP sent me has 1 terabyte of SSD storage, also with 32 gigabytes of Intel Optane memory, and that had very similar or slightly better results in terms of the reads and writes. And as I mentioned in the last video, this has Wi-Fi 6E along with Bluetooth 5.2. Now that combo card is slotted in. That means as the user, if you need to change it out down the road, you have that option. Now, there are 3 options when it comes to the display. There are 2 3K options that are IPS, and then there's 1 UHD Plus option. That's the OLED. That's the one we have here today. Now, I did review the one with the 3K Plus display. That's the 3072 by 1920 resolution. I did that one about a month ago. Again, check out that link below, and it's an excellent 3K IPS display. But what we have here today is even better. It has a resolution of 3840 by 2400. And yes, just like that 3K display, this also has a 16:10 aspect ratio. That means you're going to get about 11% more vertical space over last year's 15.6-inch model, and you'll do less scrolling when it comes to web browsing. You'll see more on the display. And with the OLED display, you get the really deep blacks, the super vibrant colors that really pop off the display. It's also a very color accurate display with a Delta E score of 0.80, and it's got excellent coverage of the color gamut. You're looking at 100% sRGB, 98% Adobe RGB, 94% of the DCI P3 wide color gamut, and 93% NTSC. This is an excellent choice if you are a content creator that does color grading, Lightroom, Photoshop, and of course, video editing. And it's a pretty bright display coming in at 385 nits, not quite the 400 claimed nits by HP, but certainly close enough. Now, a couple of things to note. It is a glossy display, so certain lighting conditions, you'll notice some glare, you'll notice some reflections. Not a deal breaker, but something to be aware of. And it's an HDR display, so if you're going to watch high dynamic range content on this display, you're going to absolutely love it. So my overall takeaway is this OLED display is stunningly gorgeous. It is super crisp, it is super sharp, and it's an excellent display. Whether you're a content creator, whether you're an average consumer just wanting to watch some movies on it, especially in HDR, this display really shines. So this is the front-facing camera on the brand new HP Spectre x360 16T, the move to that 16-inch display, but we're also noticing a much better camera. This is a 5 megapixel camera capable of 1080p 30 frames per second video. That's what you're seeing right now. Now these dual far field microphones, how do they look? How do they sound actually? How does the video look? Is it good for your Zoom needs? Is it good for your work from home needs as we find ourselves in this hybrid work environment? I am curious to know. Now, a lot of new features with this glam cam, as they call it, over-the-shoulder protection. So if somebody's peeking over your shoulder, they won't actually be able to see what's on the display, which is good, especially if you need that security. It also has presence detection, so it knows when you're there and it wakes up, and it knows when you walk away, it locks the computer. I love that feature. It also has a feature that centers you on this webcam when you're moving around, so you're always in focus, you're always centered, and that's great, especially when we're all doing our virtual video calls and so forth. But I'm curious to know what you think. Let me know in that comments section below. Now, this is an IR camera, so if you want to log in with face recognition with Windows Hello, you can. And I love the fact that there's a physical key on the display allowing you to shut off the webcam, giving you more security and privacy. And the fingerprint scanner is located within the keyboard, and it worked well. Setup was easy, registering my finger each and every time I used it. All worked well. And for those wondering, yes, you can open the lid with one finger, as you see here. Now, the hinges are actually pretty sturdy, although you will notice a bit of screen wobble every now and then. That's the nature of a 2-in-1 convertible design. It's just not something specific to the Spectre. Any 2-in-1 convertible will have some screen wobble. And I really like this keyboard. I think the layout is pretty good, although there is no numpad, so some people may not like that. But I thought the tactile feedback was good. I thought the key travel was good at about 1.5 millimeters. So you're going to be really comfortable typing in terms of extended periods of time. I really like that. You have a multi-stage backlight that allows you to get work done in a dark room or a dimly lit environment, and the keys light up white against the dark keys here, so you don't have any problem seeing the difference between the two. It worked well. And it has a pretty nice touchpad that was very responsive. Two-finger scrolling was buttery smooth, and all the gestures work as you'd expect. Now, this is a Synaptics touchpad with Windows Precision drivers. And this being a 2-in-1 convertible means you can put it into the different modes. You have tent mode, which is great for watching Netflix, Amazon, and YouTube. It works really well. You could also put it in the stand mode. This is great for presentations, also for consuming media and the like. It really worked well in that regard. And of course, you could always put it into tablet mode. But at 4.45 pounds, holding it in your hands for quite a bit of time can get a little bit heavy. So if you're going to do tablet mode for a long period of time, you might want to use it on a desk or a table. And as I mentioned earlier, the pen is included at no additional cost. It's the Microsoft Pen Protocol 2.0 standard, and it comes with a couple of extra pen tips. And again, at no additional cost, you gotta love it. And you won't have to hunt for batteries since it charges via USB-C. And there's really not much to say other than the fact that you can take notes, sketch out artwork, and it worked well with this Spectre x360. Not the greatest for artists from what I understand, but again, I'm not an artist, but this standard will be perfectly fine for, again, taking notes and the doodle here and there. And one of the other things you're going to notice with this year's model is the fact that it comes with a larger battery. In fact, it has a 6-cell, 83 watt-hour battery, a significant increase over last year's 15-inch model. And even with the OLED display, I'm seeing 7 to 8 hours of what I call mixed use. So that means this is going to be a much better option than last year's model when it comes to battery life. Now, as far as that 3K plus IPS display that I took a look at a month ago, I got more than 13 plus hours on my continuous web surfing test over Wi-Fi at 150 nits. So in real-world mixed usage on that model, you're looking at anywhere from 10 to 11 hours, even better. But please keep in mind, everybody's use case is very different. They use their devices in a different way, so your mileage may vary. And it takes about 1 hour and 45 minutes with the included 135 watt power adapter on the OLED model, and it takes about a little less than 2 hours with the included 90 watt power adapter on that base model. Now, I already did some performance numbers, as you see here, on that model that I did last month with the integrated Iris Xe graphics. It ran the Core i7-11390H processor, the same one running on this OLED model I have here today. The difference is this OLED model has a discrete GPU, the RTX 3050 from NVIDIA. And as you can see, the performance numbers, especially when it comes to graphics, are better on this model running that discrete GPU. Not a surprise. But if you want to see some performance numbers from that initial base model that I had, check out that video. Again, link is in the description below. But as far as this model is concerned, again, you're not going to be blown away by any of the performance numbers here. And I think it's because HP tried to strike a balance between performance, efficiency, and of course, thermals. And for the most part, I think they did a good job. Now, one thing to note, this is a 35 watt CPU as opposed to the 45 watt CPU from last year's 15-inch model. Now we're seeing on par or a little bit better than last year's model in terms of the numbers. And when it comes to gaming, you're definitely benefiting here from that RTX 3050 GPU, as you can get some playable frame rates on certain settings on the more popular titles. And of course, you could always add an external GPU via one of the two Thunderbolt 4 ports that this has. And this balance that HP is trying to achieve between performance and thermals and efficiency comes into play here when I ran the Prime 95 stress test to see if this will thermal throttle under heavy load. What I noticed is that the CPU would turbo boost to 4.92 gigahertz for about 5 seconds, but never getting over 72 degrees Celsius in terms of the core temperature. It would stabilize anywhere between 1.59 and 2.3 gigahertz and maintain that 72 degrees Celsius temperature. That tells us they didn't want this to overheat. They didn't want it to get overly hot. And for the most part, they achieved what they set out to do. But the performance could have been a little bit better, but it would have gotten hotter. Interesting balance they had to strike. And as a result of this, the surface temperatures never get overly hot, never hot to the touch. It actually remained relatively cool. Now, the dual fans will kick in under heavy load, and they didn't come on quite a bit, actually. They intermittently would come on when it needed, and it never was overly loud. So they really did a good job in terms of keeping this laptop quiet. Now, when it comes to the audio, this is tuned by Bang & Olufsen, and it has quad speakers, 2 tweeters and 2 woofers, and the volume was very good, filling up a room rather nicely, decent mids, and there was some bass. All right, let's bring it all home. What do I think about the HP Spectre x360 16T here in early 2022? And I gotta say, excellent job here. Love that gorgeous 16-inch OLED display, 16:10 aspect ratio. You get the deep blacks, the vibrant colors, everything you'd come to expect with an OLED display. Excellent keyboard and touchpad, makes it comfortable for typing and using this laptop for extended periods of time. 2 Thunderbolt 4 ports gives it a lot of versatility. You want to add external monitors, external GPUs, you have that option. Replaceable SSD and Wi-Fi are always welcome, of course. I would have liked to have seen upgradable RAM, not something we get on this model. It includes the pen and sleeve at no additional cost. To me, that is a great value add, and I like to see that. Fantastic 5 megapixel 1080p IR webcam is certainly welcome after we got a slew of laptops from last year with these terrible 720p webcams. This changes the game. Good job on that, HP. I got a nice OLED display, UHD Plus option, 3840 by 2400, as I mentioned. Excellent in that regard, but you can also go with that 3K Plus IPS display, which was very good in its own right. Now, the other thing you want to know is that it runs really cool. I thought they did a good job on the thermals, never getting overly hot, never too hot to the touch. They made a nice balance here between the performance, thermals, and efficiency. And speaking of the battery life, pretty good numbers here, 7 to 8 hours on that OLED model, and you're looking at 10 to 11 hours of mixed use on the IPS 3K model. There are not too many negatives here. I would say the display is a little bit reflective. Both the IPS and OLED displays do have that reflectivity that I'm not crazy about. No full-size SD card reader. Instead, you get a micro SD card reader. And it could get expensive. The OLED model coming in a shade over $2,000 when it's all said and done. But there are no real deal breakers here, ladies and gentlemen. I think HP's hit a home run with the move to the 16-inch, 16:10 OLED display as an option. I think it's absolutely fantastic. Good performance, good thermals, good battery life. They really nailed it in this version. I'm going to give this a score of 93%, making the HP Spectre x360 16T my editor's choice in the 16-inch convertible category here for early 2022.
So what do you think about this bad boy, the Spectre x360 16T? This is the Nightfall Black. I showed you the Nocturne Blue that we got a chance to look at last month. And of course, it comes with the pen, sticks magnetically to the side so you don't lose it. But I would put it in a bag in a separate pocket if you can. You don't want it falling off. It shows a little bit more fingerprints than the blue one, but I think this is still a beautiful color, Nightfall Black. It's got the pale brass accents. And speaking of the design language, a more subtle gem cut design this time around, a little bit more rounded edges, a little less harsh or sharp edges that we found in the last model. Now, as far as performance, you're looking at the Core i7 11390H. That's a 35 watt CPU as opposed to the 45 watt we had last year. You're going to see about the same or a little bit better performance. It's more efficient as well, getting 7 to 8 hours in battery life on that OLED display. You're looking at around 10 to 11 hours of mixed use on the IPS model. That's a 3K display. Now, the OLED display on this is absolutely gorgeous. It covers the color gamut extremely well. It's really color accurate, and it's everything you'd want out of an OLED display. The really deep blacks, the vibrant colors that just pop off the display, it's all there. Now, that 3K IPS display that I took a look at, I should say 3K plus, 3072 by 1920, retains that 16:10 aspect ratio. Not quite as good as terms of the coverage of the color gamut. It's also pretty color accurate, but not as color accurate as this OLED model we have here. Now, there's a lot to like on this year's variant. Of course, the price is going to be one of the things you're going to consider. $1499 starting price over at HP.com. You could pick up the model I reviewed today with that OLED display and, of course, with the RTX 3050 graphics. That's running a little bit over $2,000 over at Best Buy. Links will be in the description below. So if you're interested, make sure you check them out. Now, I really think this is a good balance between performance, efficiency, and of course thermals. And the thermals were really good on this. The dual fans were very, very quiet. Didn't kick in quite a bit actually. Maintained pretty good temperatures. Never going above 72 degrees, and that's even on performance mode. I'm still looking into that to see exactly what's going on, but I think the performance to thermal balance is really good on this, never getting overly hot to the touch. And I think one of the reasons HP did that, they wanted to appeal to a wider audience. And after all, this is their Spectre line, their flagship line, that is meant to appeal to a very broad and wider audience than say something like the Envy line that we took a look at last year. But I'm curious to know what you think. Let me know in the comment section below. What do you think about the Spectre x360 16T? Does this fit the bill? Would you prefer to have 12th gen processors? They didn't make it in time to do that, but perhaps we will get a refresh down the road. So please hit the like button, please subscribe, please share this video. Don't forget to leave a comment in that comment section below. Let me know how I'm doing. Let me know if there's a device or something out there you think I should review. I'll do my best to try to make that happen. Don't forget to check me out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course my website, amdtechreviews.com. So until next time, this is Andrew from AMD Tech. See ya.